Hey guys, so it's Mike Haynes here with Haynes Team Real Estate, Epic Realty. Just wanted to show you we're here this morning to hear from someone on the current market here in Charleston, South Carolina. We're going to be hearing from some special speakers. Here's the room right here. It's early, it's empty, and before it starts, we're going to grab some coffee. What's really cool is they're offering all these vendors booths here. You see some behind me for like home warranty, home insurance. There's also booths for mortgages, new development communities. We'll go around and take a look at a few of those, but they have got that amazing breakfast. So we're gonna take a look at that and see what it's gonna be doing for us this morning, early in the morning. And if I know a convention with realtors or any meeting with realtors, we love free food. Guys, Mike Haynes here with the Haynes Team Real Estate, and here we're here with a rep at the Trident Real Estate Association, and she represents a home warranty. So tell us who you are.
Hey everybody, I'm Marcia Germain with Choice Home Warranty. Excited to be here today.
Okay, awesome. So home warranty, what's important about having a home warranty?
Saving money and peace of mind for your buyers when you're going through a real estate transaction is key.
Got it. So I've seen in a lot of my transactions, the sellers want a release of liability type thing on their appliances because they say the air conditioning's good, everyone's dishwasher works, everyone's air conditioner works until you decide to sell the property. 3 months later, you get a call from the buyer. So if you give a warranty on your property and then you go to sell it and transfer that to the buyer, guess what? When something goes out, what do you guys do about it?
They're going to call me instead of you, and for a $75 service fee, they're going to get a professional out there to either repair or replace the equipment or appliances.
So like if an air conditioning unit goes out and a guy comes out and says it's $6,000 to fix, what would you guys do if they called you instead?
So every situation is different depending on the cause of failure. A warranty is going to cover items that break down due to normal wear and tear, but it's a $75 service call fee.
Got it. So it's like a copay kind of like, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the cool thing is you can pay a $75 copay and have your stuff fixed. If it's fixable that way, of course, every circumstance is different, or you can write the big checks. So I always recommend for all you guys out there, get a home warranty. It is very, very important to have. Thank you so much, Monica.
Marcia.
Came across a termite inspection guy, and tell us who you are.
My name is Carl Kuster with Stark Exterminators.
Okay, awesome. So tell me, what is important with having a termite report in every transaction?
And make sure that you're not buying a house where you might fall through the subfloors.
Yeah,
or the walls are coming down.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people say you don't know what's in the walls, but there's a lot of indications and signs you can look for that has some kind of infestation or something like that. What's some of the things you look for when you go out and you do a termite report?
Well, we look for high wood moisture content. So if it's a crawl space home, which is where you go underneath the house, if we look for high moisture, we have a needle reader and we'll stick it in the wood and make sure that the moisture rings are under 20%, because 20% above is conducive conditions, which means that it would fail the CL100 inspection.
So you have a way to test the wood and its moisturizer to tell if it's damaged or it's going to be damaged soon.
Yes, and then we'll look for obviously active termite activity or a previous activity, and then we'll make sure that either A, there is a termite bond in place, or if there was, we can help with getting a new termite bond in place, but it is important in this market to have some sort of termite protection.
Right, so not only do you do the inspection to begin with, but you put kind of like a umbrella coverage under it, or like a warranty type thing, correct?
Correct. It depends though. A newer update in the market is now if you have spray foam, and especially in an attic, most companies will not give a termite bond, which means a repair warranty on the structure anymore, because you can't see what's happening between the spray foam and the actual roof, right?
Right, okay.
And crawl space, if some people put spray foam in the crawl space, if that happens, we may be able to help with it, we may not. We just have to see the extent of how much spray foam there is. But we highly recommend not putting spray foam underneath a house or in an attic because it could be a moisture trap and you just don't know if there's a problem.
Right, exactly. So it's good just to have you guys come out and take a look at it, but then also use your expertise on going forward, how you can use the protection going forward, pretty much.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so and you were?
Carl,
thanks for coming out and doing this. We appreciate it. And for all you guys out there, it's important to have a termite inspection and it be done right by the right people, right?
Yes, sir.
Patterns, right? So clear examples of this pandemic bubble. So first we can see it in a couple of different ways. We can start by looking at overall Charleston housing sales. And again, step back and you can see the bubble that formed following the recession in 2020. And the reason, by the way, these data jump around is because of just seasonality, right? So more sales in the summer than in the winter months. So that's just normal variation that we would expect, normal seasonality. But if we compare the latest data from December 2024 to where we were on the eve of the pandemic, sales are very comparable. Again, a readjustment period, a peak followed by a pullback, and now adjusting to a new long-run equilibrium or a new long-run trend. So that correction period now largely behind us. And when we look at economic performance, it turns out that in South Carolina and in the US, we do see economic performance that continues to be fairly strong and robust and very resilient to some of these negative trends in terms of lost purchasing power. And I would suggest to you that if we were to just take a snapshot, right, if we could take a photograph of the economy in January of 2025, and we were to just give the economy a grade in South Carolina, we could grade the economy a B+. A B+ economy. Why is that the case? Why a B+? Well, most economic metrics point to an economy that is performing well. As I said, one that has been very resilient over the past year and one that has seen very steady rates of growth. We've had steady consumer spending, which we've already talked a little bit about. We have historically low unemployment in South Carolina, and we've seen steady wage growth throughout 2024. So by most metrics, South Carolina's economy is continuing to perform well. But we can't give the economy an A if consumers have lost so much purchasing power and are still worse off than they were by that measure than before the pandemic back in December 2019. So a B+ overall. The other change that we're seeing this year is that labor markets have started to cool. They've started to slow, which is one reason why the Fed has been cutting interest rates during the second half of 2024. But what I would suggest to you is that all of this points to a broader structural change that we're currently seeing in South Carolina and in the US, where we are moving away from the pandemic bubble and entering into a new era towards more sustainable growth rates. And this is a very positive development that has taken place in 2024 and as we transition into 2025. Moving away from a pandemic bubble and towards more sustainable growth rates. Because if we look back over the last several years, there's no question that we have been in a pandemic bubble, particularly a goods bubble. And of course, everyone in this room is very much familiar with the fact that the housing market has been part of that. And we've been going through a correction over the last several years. And that correction period is now behind us. Which means, again, we can move into a period of more sustainable growth in 2025. So this new era is very important as we move ahead, and this is a major transition point and one that is a very positive transition. And so the way to illustrate this that I think is helpful is to compare the recovery that we've seen over the last several years from the 2020 recession. And let's go back and compare it to 2008. Nobody wants to talk about 2008. That's a bad memory. But But it's important just for comparison purposes for a moment. So let's just look at the Great Recession, and let's look at the 2020 recession, the COVID recession. And let's just think about the recovery following both events. So in 2008, when we went through the Great Recession, it took us close to 7 years to recover all the lost jobs following the aftermath of the 2008 recession. Close to 7 years to recover all the lost jobs. In 2020, it took us less than 2, or right about 2, to recover all the lost jobs, despite the fact that the COVID recession was far deeper. We lost about 15% of South Carolina's employment base in 2020. We lost about 8% only, right? That's, you put that term in quotes there. But we lost about 8% of the employment base following the Great Recession. So it was a much deeper recession in 2020, but we recovered a lot faster. And so just by that employment measure, then you say, well, that's great. We recovered a lot faster. That's really good news. And it is. But there's a trade-off. As economists, we always talk about there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? We're always looking at different trade-offs. The trade-off for the faster employment recovery was that higher inflation. Because remember, part of the reason we saw such a rapid increase in demand and a rapid increase in recovery of our economy is that we saw $6 trillion in stimulus injected into the economy. That created red-hot demand, a pandemic bubble that we are now emerging from, and that led to rising prices. When demand goes up, prices go up, and that leads to that high rate of inflation. So it's a trade-off here, faster employment growth, faster employment recovery, but we also saw a rise in inflation as a result. So a big difference here in terms of 2008 versus what we saw in 2020. Because in 2008, in the aftermath, it took us longer to recover those lost jobs, but price stability wasn't ever really a concern. If we think back to 2009, 2010, 2011, prices remained stable overall. So a big difference there in terms of what we have seen. And so if we look at this transition point and we look at what's been happening with respect to the recovery, we can see it in terms of the goods bubble, this pandemic bubble, and shifting away from it. Again, that trade-off, higher prices, red-hot demand that we've been adjusting from overall. And we can see what that looks like in terms of the goods and the services sector. So it's really very clear when we illustrate these differences in terms of the 2020 recovery period and 2008. Because remember, when we're recovering from a recession, we have to recover not only all the lost jobs, but all of that lost purchasing power as well. Right? Both are important. So in a very real sense, we've been in recovery mode through 2024 as we're adjusting away from this goods bubble, from this pandemic bubble, and as consumers are clawing back this lost purchasing power. So recovery is not really something that we hear in the news very often. Right? We don't hear about our economy is still recovering. We think about growth, we think about the rate of growth, but we really don't hear the term recovery. But I would argue that we really are still in recovery mode because we've lost that purchasing power in response to the recession in 2020. And until consumers claw that purchasing power back, we really haven't seen a true recovery. And again, that's another positive development as we move into 2025. Because we are in a position now where if we continue to see strong wage growth and lower inflation, then consumers will claw back that lost purchasing power. So again, you can see this in terms of the goods bubble. If we focus on it in more detail here, we move from the pandemic bubble overall, caused by the goods bubble that emerged in 2020 and 2021. Why was it focused in the goods market? Because we were all socially distanced. Right? So we had that $6 trillion in federal stimulus that was injected into the economy through stimulus checks, through a variety of tax credits, through enhanced unemployment insurance benefits for a period of time. So the $6 trillion were directly accessible to consumers and to households And so consumers were in pretty good financial shape in 2020 and 2021, particularly because they had access to these stimulus dollars and they were going back to work. We were seeing businesses open back up. So they had access to wages that they were earning and to these stimulus dollars. And so they were spending those dollars in primarily the goods sector because we were all socially distanced at the time. And so that creates this pandemic bubble that's primarily focused in the goods market. It peaks in 2021, and then it begins to deflate very slowly.